Pascal. You are now rocking with that dude Pascal.
What's up, y'all? We got some huge news going on in Moscow, Idaho, in regards to this whole Idaho 4 tragedy. And I'm telling you right now, if any of this is true, Bryan Kohberger is absolutely cooked. All right? Now, here's the thing. We've all been wanting to know what's been going on with this DoorDash driver. In fact, some people are saying, is the DoorDasher involved in the unaliving of these 4 students on this tragic night, in Moscow, Idaho? Of course, there's a lot of questions revolving around that. But now I think that we're finally getting some answers. But I'm going to tell you this, though, too. Given the circumstances revolving around this particular witness, this particular DoorDash driver, I know that there's going to be some people side-eyeing the situation. Let me just preface everything before we get into that. But nonetheless, the DoorDash driver has emerged, is out now, and is basically saying that she saw Bryan Kohberger parked right next to her on the night of the unalivings of these kids. That she saw Bryan Kohberger without question in his car, in his white 4-door Hyundai Elantra on the night of the unalivings. Yes, guys, this is absolutely massive. And of course, there's been questions of who the DoorDash driver is, etc. But what's interesting is you guys, you true crime sleuths out there, salute to y'all. Y'all been seeing this stuff for a minute. And what's interesting is this all comes out. This woman has been exposed all because of Bodycam footage that came out, because she was arrested about a year ago for a second DUI. At least that's what it's saying in the title of the video of this Bodycam footage that was put out and uploaded about a year ago. And again, some people are going to be asking questions in regards to that, right? But of course, we're going to talk about that in just a little bit. But mainly, we got to talk about what's really going on. And she says, I saw Bryan Kohberger. That's insane. You got to remember also, Coco, as I like to call him, he was claiming that he was out looking at the moon and the stars in the woods, nowhere near the house during that fateful and tragic night. Okay? But no, if she says, and if she's telling the truth, that she saw Coco, Bryan Kohberger, in his car parked right next to her when she went to drop off some Jack in the Box for Xana Kernodle late that night, then it would prove that he was in the area and that he could very well have been the person to do this tragic unalivings. Again, if she's telling the truth, Bryan Kohberger is cooked. Let's take a look at this, guys. Okay, real quick, because we got 2 videos to look at here really quick. One of them is mainly the body cam footage where this woman speaks out and says, I am a witness to a full-on mass unaliving of the 4 kids in Moscow, Idaho, and all that stuff. It's pretty crazy. But anyway, DoorDash emerges as surprise Idaho witness who could doom Bryan Kohberger with 4 words. So a DoorDash driver is expecting to testify at the upcoming Idaho trial, the Idaho unalivings trial, that she saw Bryan Kohberger during a delivery on the night of the fatal attacks. So the unidentified 44-year-old woman told police during a traffic stop in Pullman, Washington, last year that she delivered food to Xana Kernodle at that home, okay? The infamous address, 1122 King Road, okay? In the early morning hours of November 13th, 2022. She uttered the words, I saw Bryan there, to officers, adding that she parked right next to him. This is massive. The woman also told an officer with the Pullman Police Department that she may be called to the stand to testify at Kohberger's trial, according to this body cam footage, okay? And this is a conversation that she's having with this officer, which we're going to be seeing very shortly. She says, I have to testify in a big murder case here because I'm the DoorDash driver. So yeah, this is the woman says in a clip after she's being questioned over a suspected DUI in September 2024. Now, what's interesting is, of course, people are going to be wondering, okay, if she's been pulled over from what we understand, her second DUI because of, using prescription pills, is it possible that she could be fabricating this thing? Does she have any mental health issues, etc.? I can see a lot of questions sparking solely around the fact that she's been arrested, and there's footage of her getting arrested for her second alleged DUI. Okay, so that's a big deal. Okay, and there's going to be people, I'm sure even the defense is going to use that and try to play or lean into that to try to discredit this woman as a witness. Could she be making this up because she was under the influence? Was she under the influence at that time when she allegedly saw Bryan Kohberger doing this unthinkable thing? You see what I'm saying? But that, I think, is something that we're just going to have to see when she goes into trial. But when asked what case, she responds, the murder of the college girls. I saw Bryan there. I parked right next to him. So, of course, shout out to you true crime sleuths out there, because you guys have been putting in the work, okay? Picked up on the video, and the woman's connection to Kohberger's case was reported to the Idaho Statesman on Tuesday. So this was just recent where this conversation came up, was discovered, which is insane. And this video has been up for a while, okay? It's been uploaded for a minute, all right? So her name has been redacted from court documents, okay? So the woman's credibility as a witness is likely to be called into question because Pullman PD accused her of driving under the influence of substances, okay? But the outcome of that DUI case is not clear, and I'm quite curious about it as well, because apparently she says in the video she has a bunch of different ailments, right? A bunch of different medical issues that she's taking substances or taking prescription substances for. So again, could she have taken something on accident and, maybe it was the wrong combination? Maybe she took too much of something and then she was operating a car around that time. Like I said, we'll find out, I'm sure, during the trial, because for a fact the defense is going to probably run with that big time to try to discredit her as a witness, okay? But remember, this is also the DoorDash driver that delivered the Jack in the Box to Xana Kernodle, okay, at approximately 4 a.m. on November 13th. So again, this, Xana had some late night munchies, and she really, she wanted some Jack in the Box, and that food was delivered by, allegedly, this woman, this DoorDash driver, who is now saying that she is a witness and saw Bryan Kohberger parked right next to her. This is absolutely massive, guys. So again, this could really cook Bryan Kohberger's case and his whole alibi, which is no alibi right now, okay? It's ugly. It's ugly, right? But here's the thing. He says he was out looking at the moon and the stars, right? He said, I got to go out and look at the moon and the stars. You know what I mean? He had this urge to go and just be out there, turning off his cell phone just so he can hug some trees. Real talk. But now, if this witness is telling the truth, it completely annihilates, absolutely demolishes his alibi. So let's go over to the video, because we need to see this for ourselves. And honestly, it is very interesting what she says in this body cam footage. This is wild. Let's take a look.
And so yeah, because I'm a DoorDash driver, so yeah. You have to testify in which murder case? Murder case with the college girl. Oh. I'm a DoorDash driver, somewhere in there.
So she said, I'm a witness to this situation. I have to testify. Then she says, of course, the cop is like, what are you talking about? What unalivings, right? And then she says, of those college girls. And then she says, I saw Bryan there. So yeah, let me just tell you something. This is absolutely massive. This is a very, very big deal, okay? The fact that she is saying out loud that she saw Bryan there is massive. Again, does this demolishes anything that he has to say in regards to him saying, oh, I was out there wanting to hug some trees because I really just needed to see the moon and the stars. Okay, like I said, this is absolutely huge. And if this is 110% real, this is massive. But you also got to remember, she was under the influence when she was arrested. She could be saying certain things. She could be lying. She could be making all kinds of things up just to save her own butt, or maybe to try to get this second DUI erased. She also was maybe using it as an excuse because of saying that she was stressed and maybe she was taking substances and taking more than usual because of the PTSD and all because of the stress of being in the area, being a possible witness. She could be using that as an excuse, or she could be telling the truth. Again, those are some questions that need to be answered. And of course, I feel like prosecution will dive into that, bring that out even more. But then also the defense can use that and rip her apart. Okay, there's still possibilities of that, y'all. But nonetheless, I do want to share this as well. Okay, Ashley Banfield, shout out to Ashley Banfield, and of course Brian Enton. They, of course, had some questions as well. They're talking about this as well because this is massive. And the other question that they talk about here too, that I agree with, is why are we suddenly hearing about this now? Why did this take so long? This has been years. Okay, how is this sealed and held off from the public? Because again, this is massive information, guys. Even the pro burgers out there, okay? All y'all pro burgers that watch the show and think that he's innocent, this is huge. Why was it being held back? That's weird until just now. It's very weird. So let's take a look at this. I got questions, and I get it. They got questions too.
This means, first of all, I did not see this coming. A second eyewitness.
Yeah, this is a bombshell, Ashley. If it is true what this DoorDash driver is saying, then this is a bombshell. I came to Boise thinking that the hearing tomorrow was going to be the big story, but this is big. The Idaho Statesman was the first to break it today. Basically, this DoorDash driver, who we knew existed, by the way. We've known for a long time there was a DoorDash driver, that she goes by MM. She's been referenced in the court documents. We knew that she arrived there to deliver DoorDash at 4 a.m., about 10 minutes or so before the murders. But what we didn't know is what is in this body camera video. And let me explain this a little bit. You did, Ashley, but the reason we know about this is because last year, this DoorDash driver, totally unrelated to the Bryan Kohberger case, she got pulled over, suspected of driving under the influence. She had a expired tag, suspected of being under prescription pills, and she got pulled over, and she just started volunteering this information to the police while she was being interviewed, and it's on body cam. And she said that she's the DoorDash driver from the Bryan Kohberger case, that she saw Bryan Kohberger, which is really the headline here, that she's a witness who saw Bryan Kohberger, and all of this just happened to come out through this new body camera video from Pullman, Washington.
Some wild stuff, though. Real talk. Some really, really wild stuff to have. Her getting pulled over. She's obviously still under the influence of whatever she's on. And then for her to sit there and say, yeah, I am supposed to be a witness in this whole trial, and I saw him, is massive. But the question is she telling fully the truth about seeing him, right? That is the massive question here. But let's continue.
So, Brian, you take us back to the house. We're going to have to describe it because the house has been torn down. But if you look at the front of the house, there's a parking lot out front where all the cars were lined up, and they stayed that way till they were all towed. But this DoorDash driver said, I parked next to him, which makes me wonder if she's talking about the parking lot out front, or if she's talking about that side street off to the left where that bushy tree is, that big, tall, bushy tree is just adjacent to the red car there. Because there's a side street that goes up that left-hand side of the house, and isn't it
it's a very
believed that the killer used? Yeah. Walk me through that.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. There was someone talking in my ear. Yeah, it's a very, very important part of what she said. Not only that she said, I saw Bryan Kohberger, but I wrote this down. She said, I parked right next to him. Now, you think about DoorDash. We all order DoorDash. A DoorDash driver typically would park right in front of the house where they're delivering the food. They'd pull into the driveway. You see them in the driveway. They get out. They go to the front door. They give the customer the food. Why would the DoorDash driver drive onto the side street of the house, which with the murder house, you've got the front of the house, you've got the driveway like you described it, but then you've got this side road that goes up the side near an apartment building. You can't even walk down to the house like through, you'd have to go through the woods unless you walked all the way around if you went to the side road. We don't know exactly where Bryan Kohberger parked, you know, if he's guilty of all this. They've never said that in any of the documents. We know that he's caught on camera going up there and going up towards the house, but we don't know exactly where he parked. But if she's saying that she parked right next to him, does that mean that he parked right in front of the house, that he just pulled right in the driveway and then went in for about 10 minutes to commit these murders? We don't know, but it's certainly interesting to think about.
I mean, the fact that he would be that brazen to actually park right in front of the house, literally pull right up to the front door, right next to the DoorDash driver, is insane. You don't, and that's the other thing too. You don't think that he would be freaking out about the fact that, oh damn, there's a DoorDash driver here. Wouldn't he, I don't know, drive away and wait for the DoorDash driver, or wait for that car to drive away or something of that sort? The fact that if he was actually parking right in front of the house is astonishing to me. Literally feet away from the house. Look at where these cars are parked, right? So it's insane to me to think that he would be that brazen enough to pull up, park right there as a DoorDash driver is parking, getting out of the car to drop off Xana's Jack in the Box food order. That is absolutely insane to me, right? You'd think that he would maybe park behind, like what they said, park down the road, hike up the street a little bit. You see what I'm saying? So that his car isn't spotted in the parking lot. So again, if this is true, and if he's being caught doing that, that means not only did he do what he did, but also he did it kind of in a sloppy way, you know? And to me, I kept thinking, and I think a lot of people were thinking, that he was trying to exact the perfect crime, right? But now we're starting to understand even more now that there is no such thing as a perfect crime. Am I right? Let's continue on.
That's what I wondered. And then also, just with the pictures we're looking at now, again, I'm always so sad when I see those cars parked out front behind the yellow police tape, because it's sort of the vehicle's frozen in time from the kids who would never come back to use their own vehicles until their parents or their loved ones took those vehicles away. But it certainly doesn't look like there's a whole lot of room, which made me wonder if this DoorDash driver parked out front on the street, knowing, well, I can't go into this little parking lot. I'm just going to have to park out here on the street, which now would make a little more sense. If Bryan Kohberger did this, if he's really the killer, he might be surveilling from a little farther away, not so obvious, and out on the street. But that's the only thing I can think of, because as you said, going up that side road, it's really hard to get access to the house. As a DoorDash driver, you just wouldn't go up that side road to the side of the house.
Yeah, the whole thing up there is tight and confusing. The layout when you drive up there is very, very strange and tight. We would always have a hard time finding a place to park up there. There's a little bit of parking on the street there, but it's difficult. It's hard to get in there. So there's a place where maybe a DoorDash driver could have just pulled off without going fully into the driveway and like put their flashers on and run up with the food. But it's hard to imagine that Bryan Kohberger just parked right in front of the house. I have to say I'm a little skeptical of this whole story. Just the way that it came out through the body camera video, the fact that in all of the police documents that we've been able to see in the probable cause, we knew there was a DoorDash driver, Ashley, but if they had a real credible witness who saw Bryan Kohberger at the house, that is huge. How would we not know that by now? It's possible it's just like a bombshell that they're saving for the trial, but don't you think maybe that would have been in the probable cause, or in all these court hearings that we've been to where we get new little nuggets? I would have thought maybe we would have heard about that by now.
I could not agree I could not agree more. It just seems so strange that out of nowhere, you got this particular witness suddenly out of nowhere saying, I was there, I saw Bryan Kohberger, he parked right next to me. And of course, this is being said, and I'm sorry for even side-eyeing this a little bit, but it's, you know, it's the circumstances in which this woman is in. She is being arrested because she's under the influence. Could she be saying those things solely because she's under the influence, or could she be saying those things to cover her own booty? That could be it too, right? Her saying, I was a witness, so on and so forth. So therefore, you know, let's work out a deal or something of that sort. Like I said before, it just seems a little bit strange. And again, I feel like that's a massive information that is not being said or released to the public. You'd think that this DoorDash driver information would be out years ago, okay, from the very beginning of the situation. Now, we knew about the DoorDash driver existing, but I'm saying, as far as her saying, I seen him, I seen it, he pulled up right next to me, that is massive pieces of information that suddenly was just held from the public. That seems a little bit weird to me. Now, I understand a lot of things can be sealed, but there's been more information that's been unsealed to the public, and I feel like that one would be massive. Now, I can also understand that maybe that information's being withheld from the public because the public would just be going and trying to find this DoorDash driver and harassing her. And then, of course, her life could be in jeopardy because, of course, there are people out there that, possible people out there that would not want to see Bryan Kohberger found guilty of these crimes. So again, maybe that's some information there as well. But again, it just seems so strange. Nonetheless, it seems strange, so strange that this is coming out right now and not at least a year ago, right? This is some very interesting stuff. But what say you guys? Comment down below. What are your thoughts? Do you think she's lying? Do you think she's adding more to her story? Okay. Do you think it's because she's under the influence and she's just talking out her butt? Do you think she's just saying that so she can save her butt? What do you think, right? What are your thoughts on this? Do you think she's lying or do you think she's telling the truth? It just seems very interesting that this all is coming out right now. And don't get me wrong, today they have a hearing, okay, for Bryan Kohberger in regards to whether or not they are going to start trial in August or if they're going to get an extension. I hope that there isn't an extension, but at the same time, you never know. I'm going to keep an eye on it, though, for sure. Okay, but what are your thoughts? Comment down below. Let me know what your thoughts are. Hit that like button down below. Crush that subscribe button, and we'll talk here soon. Be good to yourselves. Be good to one another. This is The Pascal Show. Bye.
Pascal. You are now rocking with that dude Pascal. We be going wild.